This is Pilgrim Place, a continuing care retirement community for 355 nonprofit professionals who have devoted their lives to serving others in this country and in all parts of the world. They are clergy, missionaries, theologians, academics, and social service workers who, in their retirement, are also artists, musicians, writers, poets, gardeners, crafters, and innovators. 100 years ago, in 1915, many missionaries returning to the United States on furlough had no place to stay for rest and recreation. This need motivated James Arnold Blaisdell, president of Pomona College, and 12 friends to plan for a missionary home in the college town of Claremont, California. Of the 12, 4 were from the Claremont Congregational Church, 4 were from Pomona College, Claremont's founding college, and 4 were from the wider community. Slowly, the emphasis changed from short-term furloughs to a full-time residential community. Here, returning missionaries were joined first by home pastors and then other Christian workers. In 1924, and a name change confirmed the shift, what had begun as the Claremont Missionary Home became the now internationally known Pilgrim Place. Pilgrim Place is often described as an intentional community. This is generally understood as a place where residents willingly agree to share each other's and the world's burdens and joys.
Well, when I came to the West Coast to work at Pacific School of Religion, I came down here because there were good friends of PSR who lived here. Some were graduates, and others are people who had worked in churches across the western slopes. And so I would make visits, and when I saw this place, I thought, this is heaven on earth. This just is wonderful. It was the most interesting thing about it were the people who were here at the time. And I thought, well, getting old with these folks would be great fun. Stimulated every day of my life by the things that are going on. So I feel like I have this vitality to myself because of the environment in which I live, which is primarily about people, but also we have these lovely trees, and I'm a tree lover. I mean, you know, I paint trees, right? So we have a beautiful campus, and this is just a lovely setting.
Somebody said yesterday, this isn't for people who are retired. You retire to come here, and that means you get new tires to work hard. It's a very active, mostly progressive place where people of faith take seriously what it means to work for justice and peace in the world, and people who support one another through the end of life.
Retirement is really a misnomer when you think about Pilgrim Place. Retirement is an activist time. You may change direction in terms of what your priorities are. You may change direction in terms of where you spend your time, but it makes an incredible difference when you're in a community, an intentional community like we have here, where people come here not to kick back and relax, but people come here really to think about a new vocation, is the way that I would put it, and a new way to be involved, or a new way or an ongoing way to continue to be involved in the kinds of things that you were in before you came here.
And it's very intentional about creating community. I think one of the key places that happens is at our community meal, which some people have reservations about before they come, but almost all of us, I think, by the time we've been here very long, are very great supporters. We eat with different people every day in a computer-generated list, so you learn to know people quickly, and the stories around the tables are just incredible. Linda's mother said to us when she visited, "Do you have any idea about the quality of the conversation at your table?" She said, "It's just so different from other places that she was acquainted with.
And what we are asking everyone who comes here, and this is the intention part of it, do you want to be a part of a community in which you carry some responsibility for the brothers and sisters who live in your neighborhood? Are you willing to be a volunteer to help make this community be sustained through the years, not just for us, but for the people who are coming behind us? That's what the people who came before us did. And so to share our time and our talents and our financial well-being so that all can live in dignity. And we do that here. And I think, you know, it's difficult in one level to ask that of people who are, because it's against the culture. It goes against the mainstream, from the me and mine and, you know, you and yours. But I see it lived out here. And I tell people, come early. Don't wait until, you know, the culture says don't go to a retirement community until you really need help. No, come here early so that you can create this intentional cohort of your age peers, and you've got enough vitality in your life when you arrive that you can make really significant relationships. And those relationships will carry us together for the rest of our lives. I don't know where else you'd find that.
For me, the intention is two things. One is that we intend to continue our work in the world, our looking out always about justice, once again, but it's also intentional looking in, which is we care for each other, we learn, we get to know new people here. When I moved in here, I knew 3 people. I now know many more than that, and I snuggle up in bed with a woman here who doesn't get out of bed, and that's the only way she talks is face to face on the pillow. That's intentional community.
Well, I think that what I discovered when I first got here was that, you know, we did have the solid foundation on which to build, but the world was changing rapidly. And I was aware of the fact that in order for Pilgrim Place to be successful going forward, we were probably going to have to do some hard thinking and maybe some hard work.
Well, we have a very good friend by the name of John Cobb, who is now 90 and has been living in Pilgrim Place as far as he can remember. And John used to talk to us about Pilgrim Place, and we kept telling him, you know, we're too young, and also I'm a Buddhist, and Pilgrim Place at the time had a reputation of only accepting Christians, so I never thought of coming here. But John always used to say, things will change. And so when I saw that there was an opening here for people of other religious traditions, I jumped at the opportunity. We jumped at the opportunity.
Yeah, and John encouraged us very strongly. So,
yeah. Well, it's a fascinating community. It's people really committed to social justice, aware of the environmental limits that we have to live within. So I think it's a really fascinating community, also very open to other religious traditions. Perhaps other religious traditions are not as represented right now, but the people are extraordinarily interested and open.
So part of the way I had to do early on was to start doing some very thoughtful strategic planning and visioning about the future. And one of the things that many of us realized early on was that there was a fair amount of deferred maintenance, that we didn't have the finances to actually generate the funds we needed to maintain the campus. And so we started a strategic process of planning the future that included eventually having to sort of reposition the campus, in some places tearing down buildings and building new buildings, borrowing money. We borrowed $26 million, which was a critical element of our, I think, present success. And as we were doing the process of this redevelopment of the campus, it became clear that our financial position would be even stronger if we were a continuing care retirement community.
We cared for my dad for 3.5 years in Florida with Alzheimer's, and that experience kind of told us that we wanted to be in a place where we knew that if one of us wasn't able to care for the other one, that there would be a community and a facility that would really be able to attend to our needs without having to have our kids be uprooted or do anything to take care of us. And my kind of fun statement is, coming to Pilgrim Place is like a community organizer having died and gone to heaven, because this place organizes itself.
Culture change originally came from the notion that we could do better for our seniors in long-term settings where they typically have been very institutional. You look at the traditional nursing home and it's very highly regulated and it's highly task-oriented. And so some years back, there were individuals who really came up with a great idea that, wow, senior living long-term care doesn't really need to look like that, and we can be certainly more humane in the way that we deliver care to our seniors and the frailest of that population. So this is a national movement, and it was kind of slow coming to California, and that's kind of unusual for us in California, but unlike other communities, Pilgrim Place has always kind of been on the forefront of cutting edge, and I think they were in this regard as well. So a few years back, prior to my coming to Pilgrim Place, there was some groundswell from some residents who had heard about and had actually visited in other states communities that were working on culture change. And so they brought some of those ideas back. They purchased a book that they circulated with the residents here at Pilgrim Place, and also engaged the administration in kind of this thinking and the generative thinking about what culture change could be here. And so it was just really taking a look at the practices of how we deliver care and creating an opportunity for residents to have more say and more choice in their day-to-day life, that they should be able to decide when they get up in the morning, when they eat their meals, when they go to bed. And for many, many years, this has all been dictated by tasks of staff or what is most efficient versus what is in the best interest or what is the preference of the residents. So the whole culture change is a real shift in how we look at care.
I have a very close personal relationship with Santa Claus. In fact, he and I start growing our beard for Christmas just in July, and it comes out pretty good at Christmas time. And so I've been involved both here on Black Friday in Ontario, and the year before I was involved with Black Friday up in Santa Rosa, and I didn't get arrested in Santa Rosa, but I managed to get arrested for civil disobedience in Ontario when we were protesting, again, Walmart's both unfair labor situation in terms of their not allowing people to organize without, and causing severe retaliation if people tried to organize, having low wages, and also terrible working conditions, particularly in their warehouse situations. Santa Claus and I both believe that you don't care about kids one day a year. You care about whether their families are able to have a decent life situation, whether they have food on the table, whether they're able to do things. And when you find that it's unjust, I mean, Santa Claus said both in Northern California and down here, he said, you know, if I really am going to care about kids, I'm going to get involved in this, whether people think it's a good idea or not.
Another friend of mine and I organized an effort about 5 years ago to raise the pay of the lowest income workers on our staff. We did not envision, and everybody kind of agreed with us, we did not envision ourselves wanting to take advantage of the people who take care of us. we wanted to pay them a living wage. So that worked really well. Fortunately, the target we set and the time we set also fit what Jerry Brown, the governor, was setting in terms of, I think then it was $10 an hour for the lowest paid workers. It's more than that now. But when Bill Kunitz, our executive director, he tells us, goes to meetings of his peers, other directors, CEOs of retirement communities, and he tells them that he has a group of residents at Pilgrim Place who want their fees to be increased in order to pay the workers more. He said that there's stunned silence on the part of all of his colleagues because that's unheard of. That's another kind of story about what's special about this place, for me anyway.
Well, I think it has a very hands-on meaning. We had, through the Environmental Concerns Committee, small group meetings in 2012 in order to gather from the community what they thought sustainability should mean here and what sort of goals we should set. And that worked very well. I was surprised, I guess, that we could gather that together. And then when we drafted a plan, the administration supported it and the board endorsed it. And so then we had a set of goals for energy, for waste reduction, for water reduction, for landscape changes. And those now have become our sustainability framework, in addition to acknowledging that besides environmental sustainability, we have to finance this. We have to do this in a way that's cost effective. And that's part of our overall sustainability as a community.
I think another thing about intentionality is that because we are committed to each other and to the world, things can happen here that don't happen in other places as easily. For example, the environmental sustainability stuff that we're in right now. This is at least the second phase since we've lived here. Some 10 years ago, Paul led the charge to reduce water consumption at Pilgrim Place by 50%, and we did. And the reason we did that is we know each other and we can say, you need to turn off your stove.
Get out of the shower, it's too long.
we need to, but we could say, you can't grow those kind of plants here to each other because we know each other, and it's hard to say it, but we can say it to each other, and that's true for a lot of different things.
It's expansive. We're looking at all kinds of issues regarding Mother Earth, the recycling and the water issues, and the changing of our landscape, the energy saving issues that have been addressed and are still being addressed by people. And I know I haven't named them all, but we're very active. Every month this past year, we've had an article in our newsletter talking about one of these issues, and then a forum developed so that people can come and raise questions about it and inquire. So we're an educating committee, I believe. Whereas the Plant and Produce Committee that I'm also on is more of a doing. We're taking care of the 180 citrus trees, and we're taking care of this garden and creating spaces for people to be aware in a different way. And the living organism of soil is being made right here with our composting and our cut grass and other things added, so that every month or so we've got a new crop of wonderful organic soil. No pesticides are used on these 18 or 20 beds. And people can sign up, as I have, and say, I'd like a bed for growing vegetables. And so we supply ourselves, as well as the sale that we have every week for the community, for Pilgrim Place community staff and residents.
So we've been very aware of the water shortage in Claremont and our water usage here at Pilgrim Place, and that's really the place where it all began. And from there we started talking about needs to recycle and take care of our solid waste and not let it go into the landfill. And with the water, we thought about our turf, and that we need to kind of transform the land to make it in keeping with what it should be down here, which is drought tolerant and native plants. So there's been a lot of effort going towards making everything that we do fit into the ecosystem of where we live. So this booth is all about zero waste and sustainability, because we really believe we need to look forward into the future with regards to how we are in relationship to the earth. And that if we're going to remain on the earth in a way that supports sustainability, we need to be very careful about how we use resources.
It started out as an opportunity for people in the community to know something about this Pilgrim Place community. And so they did a bunch of different things, and it showed people outside that we wanted to be friendly, and what we did here. It's grown into a huge event, and it's a time in which we open our doors to the community and sell many of the things that we make here, provide meals, do things for the children and so on. So it's just a big festival time, and the community gets to see us other than as just people walking around in one given location.
Well, Pedersen Museum is a very unusual thing for a retirement community to have. The story of its origins is interesting in itself. Mr. Pedersen was reported to have walked through the festival one year and saw a very important piece of Japanese imperial clothing there and said, we need to have a museum. He wasn't the only one that was involved in beginning the museum, but Pedersen Museum of Intercultural Art has over 10,000 artifacts from every continent, and it goes back in history to more than 10,000 BCE. It's an amazing collection, and the commitment to fostering intergenerational as well as intercultural understanding is very exciting. The statement has been made that the art of the craftsman is the key to understanding the cultures of the world, and that's something that all the cultures of the world have in common. I started working in the museum within a very few weeks of our arrival here, and it's been a very important part of our experience. It's a unique opportunity for a retirement community.
You know, the way to memorialize Davy Napier isn't just a building. It's to figure out how to do what the Napiers did, how to create the hospitality, how to create the joy of being engaged in social justice work that will attract young people. So Paul Minus certainly spearheaded the movement to try to develop a program that would help us do the kinds of things that the Napiers once did. They talked with folks at the colleges and developed a partnership with the 5 Claremont colleges that would allow us to find a way to support and encourage students who have a passion for social justice. So the Napier Awards are intended to do that, to recognize students who have a track record, a passion for social justice, and who have an idea of what they would really like to do for a year after graduation to make this their own project. And this year we will offer 2 awards at $12,000 each to help the students actually do this. But I think one of the best parts of the awards program is that all of the students who are nominated by the colleges, up to 15, become Napier Fellows and are invited here to receive our hospitality and to get to know pilgrims who share some interests with them, perhaps who have experience that would help them as they develop their project and think about moving ahead. And indeed, some wonderful friendships have grown out of this mentoring program.
We break into small groups, and you're in a different group all the time. And we were talking about, they were asking me, they said, well, how did you become aware of AIDS? And I said, well, I was involved in bringing the AIDS quilt to Key West. And they said, what's the AIDS quilt? And I said, of course, you weren't even born.
Pilgrim Place. The truth to tell, those other times we loved them well. They cannot do what we did before. The truth to find is much more to explore. Wide and deep. What sticks in love still lives in you and me at Pilgrim Place. We sing our way, we have our doubts, it's hard to say. We study well, we question all, and still in faith we listen for that call at Pilgrim Place. On pathways crossed, we even walk, we feel alone in living here. There's joy and pain, the fruit and all, the gift we can't explain. Oh, why do our lives can be? What sticks in love still lives in you and me at Pilgrim Place. Let's change our way. The skies are sea, the earth forlorn, but even with our grief to bear, we try to find a way and hope to share at Pilgrim Place. Along the path we love to play.
Many of the various and productive ways in which residents were once engaged professionally are carried on into their active retirement. In addition to their loving care and support of each other, they continue their lives of learning, teaching, mentoring, working for peace, social justice, all with a clear commitment to leaving the world a better place for future generations.
You know, I think that Pilgrim Place has been known for years and years as an organization where residents have a really significant role. And to some extent the staff do as well, and the board. One of the things that I had to learn early on was to help the board equip itself to be a board, and the staff likewise. The staff was pretty much in passive mode. And so as we worked to try to help refine what their roles were, I then had to contend with the resident roles, and because we had the baby boomers coming on board, who had very clear assumptions about what their roles should be. A lot of them had come from very professional experiences where they were leaders of organizations, pastors, so on and so forth. And to transpose them into this role at Pilgrim Place, then they had a lot of skills that they wanted to apply to their life here. And trying to keep those three elements of the governance in balance was a challenge then, in a different way, and even more of a challenge now, because I think both the residents and the staff especially, and the board, are all living more fully into their appropriate governance roles. And it's trying to keep that balance. That's always a challenge. Sometimes the one leg gets a little longer than another, and I have to go and try to saw it off a little bit when they're not looking.